some of also members speak in English, but also some still thinking with Indonesian language. So that's all we have here, all the political parties. And this is like a miniature of the Indonesian Parliament, all now in face of, both of you. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's quite overwhelming, I have to say. No, thank you. And before we start, I have another suggestion for all of you. Just
Can we
open the door.
Because it's very hot.
That was going to be my first suggestion. But I'm sorry, I will have to disturb you, sir. And if you do not mind, I can leave it open, okay? Yeah, okay. So now that we are past my first suggestion, thank you. Second suggestion is whenever you hear something from us, if you do not understand, stop us. Just stop us. We don't take any offense whatsoever. If we speak too fast, then let us know. I have a strong accent.
Italian?
Sorry?
Italiano?
Close. Romanian.
Oh,
So
okay.
I have a very strong accent, and I know that.
Yeah.
So in case you cannot understand me, stop me and make me go back. And also, do not be afraid to ask questions while we speak. I mean, don't wait until we finish the phrase and then ask. Just ask the question if you want to, or if you don't understand us. So does that work with everyone? Okay. Again, apologies for this, and then I mean, for us it's really cool to be speaking in front of such an important delegation. Sorry for Mark though that he missed the opportunity. However, if we do a good job, you will all have to promise us that you will come back so that you actually get Mark.
Okay.
Okay? Only if we do a good job. If we don't do a good job, you cannot say anything
Yeah.
because you will get us fired. So, okay.
Some of the delegation will coming back because some of them just get re-elected, and then some of them will be pensioned this year. But the staff remains, so
Okay.
they will be also coming back here to study.
So, please be easy on us. I mean, if you're going to come back, I'll make sure that you're going to meet Mark. So, be easy on us today. But again, we will do our best. I mean, we know what we are talking about here. So, reform or general features? And
Yeah, general features.
we start with general features. Okay. So I will start exactly from where you explained how your system works. And I will try to put it in a way to mirror it
Mm.
to the American system so that it makes some sort of sense to you. So basically, in the US, you have a clear distinction between the branches of government. It's clear, it's undeniable. You cannot really say that there is a law that would allow the other branches to overlap. No. The laws are clear, and that's the Constitution. But, as we will see, there are instances in which the branches, I should have closed it, but okay.
Okay.
The branches actually, when you look at them, they compete with each other. So there is a fierce competition among the executive and the legislative. And the reason for that is because, yes, the Constitution gave the clear description of what each branch can do.
Okay.
And the Constitution actually gives or has the longest part granted to the organization and the role of the legislative branch. But with time, and as the society changed, as things happened, like world wars and so on and so forth, the executive branch started gaining more power. The gaining of power of the executive branch was also done in a way with the help of the legislative, because in certain areas, the legislative ceded powers to the, what you would call the easier, let's say, to the president, okay, to the institution of the president. So, although there are still areas which are clearly designed to be dealt with just by the legislative, there are also areas where, for instance, because I mentioned earlier world wars, imagine this. Yeah, Congress should grant the possibility to the president to declare war. Yeah, if Congress is not in session, do you think the president of the United States could tell people, hold on a second, I have to call my Congress back so that they all come back and they all sit in session and then maybe they can grant me powers? It kind of doesn't work like that. So what happened is that although the actual part still exists, is valid, the president has more powers. So, for instance, another topic that most probably you hear non-stop in the news, it's about immigration, right? It's like the top subject nowadays and so on and so forth. Well, immigration is the prerogative of Congress, the legislative body. Okay, so Congress has to come up with legislation, and based on the Constitution, the role of the executive would be to fully implement it. Of course, there's one caveat. Since the two branches are competing, there's always the possibility for a bill to pass Congress, to be voted on the floor and be supported and so on, and it reaches the president's desk, and he vetoes it, because he has the power, right? If the president doesn't agree with that type of bill, he can veto it. Now, as you were talking about checks and balances, as you were talking about institutions that work together, even if they're in a competition, but they work together in order to maintain a certain equilibrium. Well, if the president vetoes a bill, it doesn't mean that that's the end. Technically, and I will say why I'm saying technically, the veto can be overridden. And that means that basically Senate will have to take, okay, now I have the impression that my teacher is looking at me like, oh, okay. He's looking at me like, okay, when are you going to say something wrong? Okay, so Senate has to basically gather the votes, and I'm speaking right now in non-technical terms. Okay, to gather the votes in order to override the veto. Now, what does that mean? Basically, it means that you will have 2/3 of the Senate and House that will have to, so 2/3 of the seating members, that's the, okay, that will have to be able to override the veto. Now, historically speaking, have vetoes been overridden? Yes. Yeah. It's not something that I don't have to want to buy. Is it something usual? No. No, it's not. But again, when you're thinking of democratic institutions, and maybe I understand that very, very well, because again, I'm coming from a former communist country. I lived through communism and I also lived through transition. So I know how it means for the institutions to be able to transit and get to what you call a stable democracy. So I understand that thing. And I know that the first part, or the most difficult part, is to give the right legislative prerogatives for those institutions to be able to have the mechanisms that would allow to balance each other out. Because otherwise, as the nature of life is, one institution will grab the power over the other. And then it's easier to have a snowball effect and get it to the point where one institution is so dominant that the other ones are like, yeah, they exist, but they don't really have a vote. This is not the case of the US. The case of the US is unique. The case of the US is
Excuse
unique.
me.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to interrupt before you are going to advance. Yeah. My understanding is that your Congress has two chambers, Senate and House.
Yes.
I just want to start from the beginning.
Oh, you wanted to go to
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
because you have touched about veto. Yeah. So what happened? Yeah, if let's say the House proposed the bill. Yeah.
Yes.
And then in the House, it is
Passes.
accepted, yeah,
Yes.
consented, but refused by the Senate, and
Okay.
vice versa.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. So again, sorry for going 20 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's already a -1, which means that you will not call us again.
Yeah.
I start to get that, sorry. Okay, so the US Congress is a bi-chamber institution,
Yeah,
okay? It does have the House and the Senate.
yeah.
Okay. Now, in order to answer your question, I have to give a very general picture of how the two chambers
Yeah.
work. Because what you're saying is something unique to, or actually what you're asking about, it's something unique to a legislative body. There is certain type of legislation that can originate just in the House,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
And yes, you have, for instance, to bring it down to a clear example.
Yeah.
Let's take the one thing that hurts everyone, regardless of the country that we are coming from, and it's politically clear, budget.
Okay.
Doesn't it hurt all of you? Yeah, I know. So, budget process. In the US, you hear things like the US Congress passed this budget resolution. Or I don't know whether you heard that. We haven't heard that in a very long time. But there is a budget process. Now, the legislation, in order to appropriate
Okay.
like all the agencies and so on, because what does it mean? Basically, Congress has to agree, I mean, that's the law. Congress has to agree and give money to fund all the agencies of the executive. So basically, that's going also to the check and balances, right? So it's Congress that has to come and say, okay, how the president gives a budget. Okay, that's your proposal. And you say you want this much for, right, let's say the agents, taking up, and you want this much for this program, that much for that program. Okay, but this is taxpayers' dollars. This is people that pay taxes that we have to fund everything that you want. So then, it is Congress that decides how much money will be given and to what. Now, the legislation that comes out for the budget has to originate in the House. In the beginning, when I started talking, I told you that one of the largest articles of the Constitution refers to the powers of Congress. And the biggest power that Congress has is power of the purse. Power of the purse. Only Congress can appropriate money. So only Congress can have a say-so on the money that are being spent, or that is being spent, on different programs to fund the executive. Only Congress has the power to actually agree. For instance, if the executive wants to change certain agencies. It was the case of, after 9/11, the case of the Homeland Department. That didn't exist before 9/11. So what they did is that they merged into one body 23 components from different agencies. That was the proposal. But if Congress wouldn't have agreed to fund that,